Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host Gary Morgan. With me, as always, my good friend Jim Stam. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Like tonight, listen, first of all, we don't have to worry about the Pirates. And I feel like tonight we can kind of get back to our roots about what this show is, Gary. Like how it all started,
Highlighting baseball fans, right?
the brainchild behind it, right? So let's just take it back to why we did this in the first place.
Yeah. So joining us to help us do that is our friend Aileen Bowers. If you've ever gone to a Pirates game, there's a good chance you've seen her. Whether you knew it or not, you knew there's a star in the making there that you didn't even know. She's a real deep blue blood baseball fan. First, Pirates fan 1A. Would you say?
And the Pirates are the team I married into because I grew up a Mets fan. My parents were from Brooklyn, so you know who they rooted for. And as a kid,
look, your fans are showing up, Aileen.
Oh, I follow her. So when I was a kid growing up, I watched baseball. My dad was a New York fireman, and we used to sit and watch the Mets, a lot of Mets games. But that's how I learned to love baseball. And I moved to Pittsburgh to go to school here, and that's where I met my husband. And since 1988, the Pirates are who occupies my heart.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah. And they challenge you, though. They make it difficult at times, don't they? And this season, it's been pretty hard for a lot of reasons. You've had personal reasons that it's difficult.
I told you, they're like, the Pirates are like having a kid, because you love your kid no matter what, but there's times where you want to strangle them. They just get on your last nerve.
Mine are older, so I'm allowed to laugh openly.
Yes.
Jim has to laugh on the inside.
Right.
Or cry, either one. Yeah.
But yes, it's been challenging.
Aileen, do you have the Mets as like a backup team? So the Pirates are usually out of it. So can you just fall back and at least you have something to go on, or have you just completely
I don't follow them. I have two brothers who are Mets fans. So they carry the burden of that franchise. So, but the Pirates since 1988 have been my team. So I don't go running to them, the Mets, for comfort, because that's a whole different psychosis.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
It totally is. They've certainly had their share of ups and downs and disappointments. I guess for me, being a Pirates fan, people talk about well, I like this other team and sometimes I'll root for them, and to me it just doesn't compute being born and raised here. So I don't have anybody else to root for, It's this is it. This is what I got, for better or worse.
Yeah, I guess this year, the thing I want to get out of the way right away, Jim, we have to address the elephant in the room. They've clinched now another season where the record's going to get worse. And I really felt like 2023, boy, didn't it feel like they were right on the verge of something? Didn't it feel like they at least had a good set of bones in place, and Paul Skeens was going to come on board and things were going to kind of take off? And then we even got this magical surprise of Jared Jones tossed in on top of that we really didn't expect, right? Everything felt like, it's going the right direction. And then somehow they put less energy into 2024 than they did 2023. It just felt that way, didn't it?
Well,
are we not sowing, or there's not the rewards of what we've sown here? I mean, they didn't put anything into what I thought they built.
Well, Gary, it's not even just so much about what we felt. It's about what they said. They mentioned about It's time to compete. It's time, right? Like we heard that a lot. And then as last season was trending toward the end, and then this season, that all kind of stopped. You did not hear that anymore.
Mhm.
And I thought, isn't that curious? Like, why would you be changing that now?
Yeah.
So it's not just about how it feels. It's really about like those were the things they were talking about. And
When did Mitch Keller sign the extension?
After 2023.
Because that's when Bob Nutting made the infamous "It's time to put the stake in the ground."
One time, yes. He also said that after they signed Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it might kind of be his go-to whenever he spends money out in the future, that he just says that. You're a season ticket holder, so I'm assuming your husband had drug you to some season ticket holder meetings where you had to sit and listen to them talk, right? Did you go to any recently where they were talking about expectations?
Well, actually, my son, so we're now on to the next generation. My 27-year-old son went to them just because his schedule with work is more flexible than mine. And, I'd say, don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass me. But yeah,
don't wear a sell the team shirt or something.
Yeah. And he'd come home and he'd say, it's the same old crap. Nobody can really say anything, and you don't want to come in there aggressively. And, some of the stuff they couldn't predict. Hayes looked like he was going to be a solid ball player. And then he had the really bad year with, he's had a balky back. And then last year he had a really bad year, not just offensively, defensively, after winning a Gold Glove.
Right.
So.
And then O'Neal Cruz had a bad season, and Reynolds. There's a lot of things that it's not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sitting here looking at this team right this second. Jim, maybe you don't feel this way. I don't want to fill in the blanks. You either, Aileen. But doesn't it kind of feel like they're more than a better season from O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds away from this being a playoff team right now? Because I've given that excuse. There's no way they could have known O'Neal Cruz was going to fall off in the second half like this. There's no way they could have known Brian Reynolds. Well, maybe. They probably knew his wife was pregnant. And he seems to stink every time she is. So maybe they did have some foreshadowing, but there's no way they expected that they were going to get this kind of season out of him. You can't have expected Henry was going to just suddenly not know how to hit at all. There's a lot of things like that, but when you add it all up, is it a playoff team?
Well,
I think that's my indictment of the GM. I don't think they ever should have thought it would be.
Gary, can we take the break? I think there's more. I think there's more to this that I'd like to talk about.
Jim is teed up.
But I can't fit this into a minute. So, why don't we just do that? We can come back and we can fill in the gaps here a little bit.
Works for me, brother. Let's do it.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, hey, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Do hit us with a subscribe. Share this with a friend. We're still doing the show for yins, so make sure other yins know about this here show. Jim, have fun. Go at it. I know you're all teed up.
Yeah, no, look. What you were saying is, going into next season, and just what does it seem like to you? The question I would ask everybody that follows the Pirates right now is, at this juncture, You have a piece of paper in front of you and a pen or a pencil, whichever way. How confident are you, pen or pencil? And you can jot down.
Eileen's actually doing the homework, so
I love it.
to.
I love it. She's so ready. You can jot down how many absolute certainties you have next year for the Pirates, player-wise.
Including pitching?
Including pitching. And I'm talking
Oh.
absolute certainties. Do it. And I encourage everybody at home to do this. And I think if you're being honest with yourself and you're going absolute certainties, boy, that's depressing. That is a scary exercise.
Well, what's your
in the
number?
making. Honestly, for me,
Yeah.
I've got 2.
2.
Yes.
Oh boy, I got 8.
No, I've got
There's
2.
what I got, 8. If you can see it. Yep.
I've got 2. Like, and I'm talking, don't have to worry about in any way, shape, or form. I know there's been some guys that have had some really good years in the sense of like, say, like an Isaac Mattson would come to mind, like that you could pencil in. I don't like to pencil in bullpen guys like that unless my guys right now, and I'll go 3 even to just to be somewhat gracious here. I've got Paul Skeens, I've got Santana, and I've got Brian Reynolds based on track record. And other than that, I don't know what I'm counting on.
See, I'll let Eileen tell her number first before I seed the well. What do you got?
I was really struggling. I had Skeens because when I started thinking, I'm like, what about Jones? Jones really probably won't be back the beginning of next year. Keller's been.
Keller, my bad.
Yes.
Thank you, Aileen. That was, yes, Keller was one of them. Excuse me. So 4.
Nikki G. Reynolds, it's hard. He's a good citizen, but boy, he's really tailed off offensively and defensively. Thank God IKF is gone because, you need to have really solid shortstop and second baseman. You've got to be strong up the middle. I mean, I think one of the things that disappointed me heading into the season was all during the winter, we were like, okay, when are we going to sign a bat? When are we going to sign a bat? And there was no bats to be signed. I mean, is Spencer Horwitz the biggest bat the Pirates could get?
I like Spencer Horwitz. He's one of my locks. If I were to do this list, like as far as who I'm not worried about at all. I guess maybe I had looser strings on this exercise in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I was trying to be very stringent.
I don't even mean
because
like
of the expectations.
I don't even mean like just is he going to come back? I could probably go 20 if I wanted to do that.
Yes.
But I meant like come back and I'm truly not worried. Spencer Horwitz. I like how the power has started to present itself as the wrist has healed. As the season's gone on, he's got more comfortable. The swing is just too short and sweet to dump into like massive slumps like everyone else. He seems to have a sense for like when to try to take a pitch the other way just to make contact. There's a lot to like about Spencer Horwitz that makes me not worried, and he can play the position. So I truly don't worry about him at all. And I guess like that was my cutoff. Don't worry. Because then I go to Nikki G. I'm not worried about him. He's hitting over 270. I'm not going to complain. There's things I want to grow. I want the power to grow. I want Spencer's power to grow. But I like them both, and I think it's okay. I feel real good about Jared Triolo as a player on this team. I feel like he has a role to play. And I kind of like where he's at right now. The swing change is real. Talked about him looking like ET as far back as last year at the plate. I don't see that right now, Jim. He looks like he's getting full torque and turn on him all of a sudden. So they made some kind of a change.
They have. But what I will say to that is Am I 100% convinced? I cannot
Oh
be.
no.
You know what I mean? So like
You got to
that is like
understand though, Jim, I'm a person that like I'm not 100% convinced about Skeens if that's the determination because his arm could fall off tomorrow. I
well,
don't
yeah,
do
but
the 100% thing. I mean like what I
if we're
think.
not talking about injuries though, like so like that's like look, I like Nick Gonzalez, but I need to see another jump. Do I think he can do it? Yes, I do. Can I pencil it in as sure that's going to happen? He plays a little better defense and makes a jump at the plate. I hope so. So like probably my parameters and my, my threshold is very, very tight on this. So
I
like,
love the exercise even in the
yeah,
chat here.
Mhm.
Like we got Mike says
yeah.
Bubba.
Oh, Bubba.
Bubba didn't even cross my mind because I'm not
Now
sure he'll make the rotation out of
Now, see,
spring
Bubba
next year.
did for me, like, but I was also very hesitant because I'm like, can you count on that yet?
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully, but we don't know if Bubba's still going to have some ups and downs. He might.
But I love how topics like this kind of just take place because we didn't plan this out. And I just love how everybody's got a different take on it. So maybe the roster isn't as universally whatever any of us see because there's a lot of things that I think, for instance, the way I just described Nick Gonzalez and Spencer Horwitz, to me, that's exactly the type of player that if I were to advise them to use some of this pitching depth and go out and trade, that's got to be the exact type of player you're targeting. Somebody that hasn't fully bloomed yet, but looks like they could. Not somebody that hasn't made the league yet, but somebody that is in the league, has shown a little bit, and just needs a little bit more opportunity, like a Brian Giles. I'm not saying Spencer's ever going to hit that many home runs. That's just not who he is. But that's the type of player that this team's got to hit on, right? And maybe Charrington's not the right guy for that, but this is the type of stuff that I think I don't want to like shortchange a win just because I don't like who got the win. And I think Spencer Horwitz is a win, a very clear win. They needed offense. They got it. Yeah, it wasn't healthy at the beginning of the season, but we've watched him grow as the season's gone on. We knew he was relatively young MLB player as far as experience goes. I'm pretty pleased. You get what I mean?
Well, and certainly I do think some of the goals should be with the Pirates is because we have to be realistic, whether we want to or not, is you just can't have the 530 OPSs and the 602 OPSs in the lineup anymore. You have to get better there. If that only gets you into the 700s or right at league average, and I think some of that is what we talk about with Nick Gonzalez and Spencer Horwitz. Hopefully he's a little bit more than that. Maybe Nick too. But at least shoot for that, right? Like, so you're not weighing down the whole team and the offense, which then weighs down the pitching. So like, just get rid of the big black holes that we keep seeing, 3, 4, 5 times in a lineup. That's got to be the goal, I think.
I remember it was the Rowdy Tellez breakout game last year where I talked to Aileen. It was right after.
Yes.
Was he pitching or hitting?
I happened to be sitting in center field, and he hit that home run like right over by the bar, and she had just walked over to say hi.
Right.
So we were standing there like talking, and I remember her talking just about how what she really wanted to see out of these kids was hustle the most. Like, he must have said it about 10 times. So it was a problem at the time of the season too that we were focusing on. How have you felt about O'Neal Cruz's season? We haven't talked at all about this. I'm just curious because it's not visually pleasing. There's nothing I'm enjoying watching about him recently.
Games I've watched at home, I've like had this thought in my head that I'd want to jump on the field and go after him. Like when he just stands there when the ball gets by him.
Like that double off the base of the wall the other night, or the top of the wall.
Yes.
That could have been a triple if he's running full out. Yeah.
Just so many things that, and okay, they put him in the outfield, but I mean, there's times where, maybe he goes to dive or shoestring a ball and it gets by him. He stands there. It's like watching Little League. You're waiting for the right fielders chasing the ball down.
What do you think they should do with them? Because I think you see a lot of numbskulls say like just cut them, but you can't do that. I mean,
No,
like you can't
I
just do
know.
that. But how long do you let him go next year? Like if this is what he is, I mean, like you have to replace the power somehow to even have the conversation, right?
I don't know where or why he has a lack of discipline. It appears, and I could be totally wrong. I'm saying what it appears to fans, that he's not focused. He lacks attention to detail. It's kind of like the criticism of Mike Tomlin with like George Pickens and receivers, the guys that would screw up and
Got everything but the head, basically. Is
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah, and that's tough because he's got so many tools. You know, now that Fam can see, Fam has been like the polar opposite in terms of effort and everything.
He's supposed to be setting an example for that player specifically.
Exactly.
I mean,
And
we heard that referenced by the GM.
Right. So, I mean, Fam, I think since Fam got his season turned around, I mean, he busts his ass all the time out there. And he's turned, I mean, I was ready, when he was really struggling. I guess it was about the end of June when things finally started turning around for him. I was like, what are you doing? Cut this guy. Just get rid of him.
I think we all were.
Yeah,
I
think that was pretty universal.
And it's like, sorry, Tommy Pham, I apologize.
Well, I went through that too, except the thing is, I know Tommy Pham to a degree. I've watched him. I know he'll do this again next year somewhere. He'll have an eye problem. They'll either fix it or they won't. Wherever he goes, it's new eye problem every year. This disease that he has, it literally changes his prescription every year. It's a thing. I've known about this for a long time.
I didn't know that.
But I guess I think we're putting too many fish in that barrel, Jim, that this magic eye thing is going to last forever and ever. I don't think it's a permanent fix. I think it's something that will have to be fixed again next year. But back to Cruz with you, Jim. I was just talking to Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds about Ellie.
Gary, this is why I love doing this show with you and why I hate doing this show with you. Because I'm gonna go here and I didn't even know that you were doing this. So go.
Listen, great minds, brother.
Yeah,
listen, we got this chemistry going on. So Ellie De La Cruz, though, he was talking to me. They are just as frustrated with him as we are with O'Neal Cruz. All the tools, and from a Pittsburgh perch, this took me aback because all I see are Ellie's highlights. All I see are how awesome Ellie is, and he does this and he's that, and he's the feature on every ad. And when they're on Apple TV, that's the guy they feature, and you know what I mean. And Sunday Night Baseball, Ellie De La Cruz, they're frustrated, and I don't think our fan base necessarily thinks that's going on. And I'm just telling you, we're going to have Jeff on this show to talk about it because after the season, because it's way too similar. I'm guessing you've got stats in pocket the way you're looking at me.
I'm listening, Gary, but I also am ready to give you some stats. No, I here's the funny thing is, first of all, I think Ellie, unless it's changed in the last day or two, he's over like 300 plate appearances with 1 home run. That's where they're at with Ellie right now. Now, the curious thing about this is, and this is what's frustrating about O'Neill, and he should be able to do this as well. Even though Ellie has had these struggles and 300 plus plate appearances with 1 home run, those are struggles, right? For any player not named IKF. Ellie's still got a 764 OPS. He's still finding a way to be productive. Now O'Neill has some of those same tools, right? We're looking at O'Neill Cruz. He's in the 680s with OPS. So those things that, like, okay, you are struggling, right? Clearly. But there are other ways you should be affecting the ball game and being. It's why we talk about why we love Connor Griffin and we think his game is, not necessarily bulletproof, but like below average proof, right?
You're certainly not worried about where you're going to play him in the field. He looks like he could hit for contact. He looks like he should be able to hit for power. He doesn't seem to lack focus or energy. In fact, if anything, he's he's white Byron Buxton running around killing himself.
Right. So these are all the things, right? So like you got this other ways these guys can avoid having some of these statistical slumps because you can get by other ways. Why is that not happening with O'Neill Cruz? But Ellie, as bad as it's been, still hitting 262, 82 runs batted in, 764 OPS. So these are the things. It'll be a good conversation for sure.
Pirate Queen checking in to say hello to her buddy. So, yeah, I mean, yes, his stats are better. He also had a much better start.
He did.
He's very much so fallen off on the stolen bases, and they're starting to question how much longer they can keep him at shortstop. Surprise, surprise, surprise. So I would imagine they're going to move him, but they're going to move him to third, I think. So they're not going to take him completely to foreign territory. They're going to try to stick him at third. Now I've heard people recently suggesting to me, should we consider moving Cruz back into the infield, like throw him at third base, because he was an infielder. It shouldn't require the same range. He's got the arm. Outfield, he's not taken to. Not sure you can really make him a DH quite yet, because not unless you don't want Kutch. And my initial thought, Jim, is, boy, I think if I'm the team, I'm tired of trying to accommodate O'Neill Cruz into being good. At this point, I just want him to show up, point at center field, say it happens or it doesn't. This is the year.
Yeah.
And let's do it. Enough of the baby, enough of the hand holding, enough of the getting you babysitter veterans, enough of pretending that you as a 26-year-old don't know what base to throw to because you've never been on a diamond while they're being thrown in from the outfield, or never knew where to stand as a shortstop to take the cutoff that you absolutely know should be coming. Enough of pretending that he's a stupid person, because he's not. He's not focusing. That's it. And at some point, that's what you have to do, is just go, here's the gauntlet, bro. I think the Reds are going to do it too with Ellie, except because they have to. The errors are unacceptable at short. He's killing them at shortstop.
Yeah, and Aileen, you may agree, disagree. I think bringing back Cruz into third base is opening up a whole new can of worms. I would let him stay in center field, buddy. You got to figure it out. Like, you got to figure it out, and if you can't, and this is going to continue to keep happening.
Would you consider a move to corner outfield, like right field? And the only reason I say that, I suggest it because the arm will play there for sure. That's his main attribute, is that arm.
Yeah, the arm will play anywhere.
And center field is a position that requires more than just an arm. It requires attention to detail, speed, range, awareness, things that he just has not displayed yet. I'm asking at this point, whether it's good for Reynolds or whoever, it doesn't matter. Move Reynolds back to left. He'll live. You know, he'll be okay. Just move O'Neal Cruz to right field if it just makes it even a little easier to deal with.
Aileen, what would you do with Mr. Cruz defensively?
I hadn't considered either of those things. I just, it's so hard to watch that team and see. I mean, aside from the talent part with, say, Paul Skeens, that's a 23-year-old with a 43-year-old brain. He's just an old guy, maturity.
He's sit on the baseball field. Yeah.
Just that's his, you can tell. Meanwhile, Cruz has really struggled at the plate. It looked like in the beginning of there were parts where it looked like he wasn't swinging at stuff up around his eyes and around his ankles. And he's reverted back to that. But some of the stuff in center field has been baffling. Just the giving up on a ball, not playing a carom well and that's your home ballpark. This is not, you see it sometimes with opposing teams, like especially with right field. They're not used to that wall.
Or the notch and left.
Or the notch. But this is your home field, You should not, there shouldn't be any surprises. You should know every inch of that outfield.
You certainly shouldn't be struggling to pick up ground balls in the outfield when you came from an infield background.
Right.
You're a shortstop. To me, like a grounder out to the outfield should be like the easiest thing that happens for you. And those he flubs more than anything because he's always gangling at them with that glove hanging down instead of getting in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are pristine outfields. There's no bad bounces and hops going on.
Right.
But you've been around these coaches for a while. I'm sure you've even met some of them. Like if you get there early enough, they talk like T-Brock talks and everything. I think it would be insulting to pretend that he's not teaching him things like that. At this point, that's where I'm at. Some of this stuff is so basic. There's no way that it's the coach's fault that he hasn't learned this stuff in the outfield. None. And they got Tommy out there, I think, setting a great example of getting the ball and firing it in like without even thinking half the time. Like that ball's out of his hand, almost like he's playing third base like Brian Hayes did. He gets that ball in the outfield, boom, it's back on the way in. That has not even attempted to rub off on Cruz. And that's where I get back to, Jim, I cannot condone continuing to give this guy shepherds. And
no.
What can they possibly do besides just lay it out that this is the year to prove it, or that's it?
No,
he's Jan Moncado after this year if it doesn't happen.
I think it's time for that. I think it's to say to him, look, this is your career. This is your livelihood. We can't, you'll be 20. Is he going to be 28 soon? Is that what it is? Or 27? Either one.
27, I think.
Buddy, we're not going to keep bringing in the vet to help you. You have to just decide, if this, how good do you want to be? You're going to be employed in Major League Baseball. You have too many skills to not be employed. But what do you want out of it? And you have to be the one to change that. I don't think that the Pirates can do much on that end other than some of the typical little things you try to do with hitters, which you would do, or infielders, which you would do with everybody. So it really comes down to him and how much he wants to take his game to a different level. You know, he's starting to remind me, and maybe you guys you either agree with this or don't, but he starts to remind me of like a really talented quarterback that like can throw a lot of touchdowns, but man, is he going to throw a lot of interceptions too. Like he's just like, yeah, and he'll make some great plays, but then like it's just like then he'll do some of the other stuff, and it's just that's going to be his career in a nutshell.
Want
And
me to age myself real quick? Jeff George. Jeff George.
Okay, yeah. And I was even thinking like Michael Vick, right? Like had
Yeah.
all the like physical skills in the world, but Jeff George is a
Mhm.
it may be the best one that I can think of, where it's just like, man, it was all the tools were there, but you know, can you put it all together?
Any other players like from past Pirates teams remind you of O'Neal Cruz, Aileen? You watched a lot of baseball.
You know, it's interesting because I'm drawing a blank, but Jim Leland would not. O'Neal Cruz would either have been shipped out or be playing differently because Jim Leland wouldn't be putting up with the stuff that he does. Now, the Jim Tracy, I don't think Lloyd McClendon would put up with that. I wasn't aware of what was going on in Cincinnati with Ellie De La Cruz because my impression was the same thing, that he's a budding superstar. But at some point, like the Steelers did with George Pickens, it's like we've had enough.
Yeah.
We're not going to invest any more resources into you because you're not doing what you need to do. And
We
that
talk
they
we talk
may
a
have
lot
to-
about we talk a lot about O'Neal Cruz, and I guess sometimes it kind of feels unfair. And the reason that he comes up so much, Aileen, I think, is we know the talent's there. It's not like it's not the same as yelling at Cole Tucker to be better.
right.
You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
different.
And they desperately need it.
Yeah.
They desperately need him to be what he can be. So that's the conundrum.
Alvarez was brought up here by somebody. I like that. Polanco, I've heard. Hermanson, no, because
Polanco, yes.
Cruz has already
yeah.
Cruz has already done more than Hermanson, but Polanco is a good one. I guess you could argue both of them were never the same after their injuries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like both sliding too. Like after that injury, Greg was never the same.
No.
And Cruz so far has not been the same since coming back from that. So maybe there's something there. I'm trying to think of like Pirates players that I really, really thought were going to make it that didn't. And Jose Guillen comes up in my head. I really thought that kid had first, the arm was very special.
Yeah.
And they brought him up, I think, as a 19-year-old from Double-A. Like
I know the Double-A thing is,
but that kid was like a phenom, and I thought Jose Tabata was going to be really, really good. You know, I mean, like honestly, for a while there, I did. They both had me snowballed, and then kind of turned around. But I don't think anybody has fooled me into thinking that they were going to be a successful major league power hitter. I'm lying to myself. I know the answer. Jack Sawinski. Jack Sawinski is the last power hitter that fooled me into thinking he was going to be a major league power hitter and then turned into a pumpkin. That's exactly what has happened with O'Neal Cruz just a year later.
Well, with Sawinski, do you think the league adjusted to him and then it's never been the same for Jack again? I mean,
You want my honest evaluation?
Yes.
My honest evaluation about Jack Sawinski is that this team took a player that is eminently coachable. Okay.
Gary.
And they went on ahead and coached him. And they they told him things that conflicted, and they confused the living crap out of that kid. His dad would tell you the same thing.
Well, that's unfortunate, because it looked like he was going to be, I'm not going to say a superstar, but a really productive major league player. And he's at the plate. He's got that deer in the headlights look.
They took a kid that was going to strike out a lot, but he was going to run into enough balls that it was going to be okay. And they turned him into a kid that somehow thought getting walks was just as awesome. And by the way, you should actually lean towards that. That's the best way to get your OPS up, kid. But the problem is he doesn't have the kind of eye they wanted him to have. And it turned him into this shell that stood up there taking strikes until he had to take a desperation swing.
Yeah, they wanted
instead
more.
of the aggressive kid that just
they wanted more out of him.
Yeah,
and this is the tricky thing about baseball in general is with guys. You get guys, some are like eminently coachable, other guys who aren't coachable and don't want to listen to things. Some guys will bend over backwards, and you just never know when you start meddling and sprinkling in on that stuff how it's all going to work out.
Like my buddy David here in the chat. Sawinski was rushed from AA. Heed the warning with Griffin. Now here's why that's false. You can't say he was rushed from AA. The kid hit 41 home runs in like the equivalent of a major league season from the time he got called up. It wasn't rushed. He got messed with and fell off the table. Like, he wasn't rushed. They just wanted better than what they had, decided to try to polish the diamond and crack the damn thing.
Yeah, and also too with Sawinski was a decent prospect. Griffin is in a different category. So I just like
that said, I don't think it should be like a definitive like we're rioting in the streets if he's not on opening day up here. I don't think it's like that. I think you got to let the kid develop a little bit and like legitimately, like, we're not seeing it, but look at his average in AA. It has fallen. It is below 300. It's in the 260s. So he's still doing great things. He's hitting home runs. He's running the bases. Stolen bases have slowed. The on base has slowed a little bit. The average has dropped, as expected when you jump up a level. So, like,
and a long season.
Go a little bit.
Long season for a kid at this age too, right?
So let's see what he does.
I was just going to say that. What's going on with Tamar Johnson? That's a name that we're not hearing anymore.
Yeah, Termar's had a great season in AA. He really has. And he'll start in AAA next year.
Some leaps.
He'll start in AAA next year for sure.
Okay.
He's had a really good season, both with power, running, fielding is what I have to say. I have to call out, because when Jim and I drove out to Altoona, I warned him. I was like, Termar's defense, just brace yourself, because he's a DH. And we sat there and watched him, and Jim looked at me at one point and was like, I think he can play. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And I've been paying a lot more attention to him after that. He's definitely gotten the second base act together. Now, that may be a problem later for other members of the team, but
right.
I like where he's at, and I think the bat's coming along. I really do. I think people forget he's 20, and playing with guys that are 24, 25 years old, for the most part.
And to be honest with the Pirates right now, it's kind of like, I don't care if the ball, if he has two hands that are blocks that can't field, if he can hit at this point and will hit, that's a good thing for the Pirates. Like you take the good with the bad there.
Well, this is a good time to take a break. And then when we come back, let's talk a little bit about this Altoona series, because if you're excited about the future of the Pirates, if you are one of those crazy people like the three people on this podcast today, then you're probably excited about this Altoona series that's going on up there in Erie, right?
Yes.
All right, let's take that quick break.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm going to check in real quick with you right now. Game 2 of the playoff series between the Erie Seawolves and the Altoona Curve. Erie is up 5-1. That means there's probably going to be a Game 3, which is also going to be in Erie. And all Connor Griffin has done in this playoff series, and it's only been 2 games, he's only hit 625 with the 1.417 OPS, Jim. He's clearly not going to make it. I don't know what we're even talking about, right?
Right.
But this team has Griffin and Deuce Gorson, who's really getting a lot. And Esmeralyn Valdez. I mean, and Samillo kind of came out of nowhere. Termar Johnson looks pretty good. Javier Rivas. Mitch Jebb is somebody that some people still think can kind of make it. I'm lost steam on him this year. But they've got some really, really, really good bats coming up. I'm excited to see what AAA looks like next year, Jim. It should kind of almost entirely remake the AAA Indianapolis Indians.
And I wonder if this is if our buddy Ben is sticking around here, Mr. Charrington, if this is what he points to, right? This is what he's saying, just this is coming. It's close. We might even have some of these guys very soon. And so some of that is promising. I wonder if that's part of the sales pitch, if it's still undecided. Maybe it's been decided. that is where it's going to come from. So, but there are some guys that finally, at least offensively, you can feel decent to good about coming up.
You can. And Aileen, you remember the Altoona Curve won the championship in 2010. They won the championship in 2017. And we probably thought a lot of these same things about what was going to come back then, right?
Yeah.
But that 2010 team actually did produce some pieces.
Yeah,
Jordy Mercer and
yeah.
Josh Harrison, Tony Watson, Justin Wilson, Jared Hughes, Jeff Locke.
Well,
there were some players.
They were part of the 2013, 14, and 15 playoff teams.
Right.
No question. So yeah, I'm excited about what I'm seeing with those draft picks. On the other hand, we have Henry Davis, and Henry Davis was pegged as, well, we drafted him as a catcher, but we might put him in the outfield, and he's turned out to be a pretty darn good defensive catcher.
Yeah.
And the kid, he can't hit, or at least he hasn't been hitting, but he's exceeded my expectations as a catcher. So
he's exceeded mine too, and I'm starting to wonder about their ability to scout their own players.
And that's why I mention it.
Well, how are you so off on a kid? Granted, he worked hard this offseason to improve some things. But I watched him in the minors when they let him catch. And I never saw the Titanic that was painted when he got called up. They wouldn't even let him catch. There was a game they were losing, I think it was 18-1 after they had called him up. And I thought to myself, let Henry catch now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they thought it was such a detriment to their pitchers, they wouldn't let it happen. I can't imagine. I know he got better. I really do. I know he worked hard on it. But I can't imagine, Jim, that it looks this transformative from whatever it is they think they saw. That's where I'm. And then recently they called up Nick York, and they're trying to use him as a platoon bat at first base. And I go to look at Nick York's numbers, and he's a reverse platoon guy. He hits righties better than lefties. How do you not know your own players? That to me is what frustrates me, and I think goes directly to the source of what I think frustrates people about this AA success, or even Rafael Flores mentioning that the Pirates value that success. It never translates to the majors, at least not often. And when it does, man, we got to work for it. We had to work for 5 years to turn Mitch Keller into a pitcher. We had to work for 4 years now to like messing around to try to get Nick Gonzalez to turn into a second baseman. It's always an effort. Look at what we're going through with O'Neal Cruz. Such a heavy lift just to get this naturally gifted guy to like flick baseballs out of the baseball stadium.
Gary, do you know if is Cruz going to play out in Arizona or play winter ball?
He plays Dominican winter ball every year.
Okay.
It hasn't been announced yet, but he will.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
He needs, there's so much he needs to work on.
The likelihood is that he will ride the pine on that team. I really mean that. That's what he did last year. He barely played. He's not one of the best Dominicans in the world. He's not. Right. It's kind of nice of them to put him on the team, bluntly, especially after this season. But he has an obligation with the people that helped him get signed, as many of them do. Mm-hmm. That forces them to play those games, whether they want to or not. But he'll be on a team with like Fernando Tatis Jr. and Ellie De La Cruz. He ain't touching that field. He'll just barely play.
And let me say this, like, honestly, with him, I don't think that's what ails him, like to figure it out on that level. I think it's totally about now looking inward with him and seeing what kind of player he wants to be. Does that fix everything? No. But I do think there's something to be said for taking stock and taking ownership and just saying that I'm not going to let these types of things take place anymore in my game, right? I can have struggles at the plate, and I can struggle and I can be a little streaky, but those really aren't the things we're talking about or concerned about with him. We'll take those things with him, will we not? So it just comes down to, I don't think you find that in winter ball and things like that. He just needs to make a decision that he's going to be the best baseball player he can be. I don't know that there's much that anybody else can do at this point with him. Quite honestly,
we keep circling back to Cruz because it's just
he's
so important, and it's such an endless well of conversation. Because like even just what you just said, kind of made me think about something we brought up a few weeks ago, where he's so much better when he's having fun, but he needs to be part of the reason that it's fun to be on this baseball team, right? And well, that's the part that I think that is not getting through to him. And
well, he's the catalyst to it.
Here's where I'm going with it. What were we told about what sold him on playing center field happily? Do you remember?
I don't.
They said that what sold him ultimately on being okay with playing center field was that his kid told him that he had never seen him play in the outfield and he couldn't wait to see it, and he now wanted to be an outfielder. Okay. His child had more of an impact on what he wanted to do on the baseball field than anything any coach or veteran has ever said to him. In all sincerity, maybe this is a guy that just baseball is just not his first love, and that's just all there is to it. Is it possible that this is just an athlete that picked the wrong sport? You know, baseball is not a sport where you can get away with half-assing anything.
I think
Aileen, go ahead. No,
Yeah.
I'm thinking. So, go ahead, Aileen.
what I was going to say is I go talking about that work ethic and things like that. I go back, Heinz Ward was interviewed one time, and he said, year in and year out, you see all these talented guys come into the league and they're gone within a year or two because they don't want to put the work in. They don't want to go to the weight room. They don't want to spend hours on film. They don't want to go the extra mile, what it takes. And, Heinz Ward was a complete player. I mean, he could block, he could catch, and he he was one of those guys. And that's what I think Cruz may be. It's like, I'm really good and I can do certain things. And I've never, I've not heard anything in listening to Pirate Games. They're not going to be critical of players. They'll talk about the Skeens or people who work tirelessly and do things like that. I don't know what this kid's work ethic is. And that plays into it. I mean,
Well,
Yeah,
Skeens,
all we get is them saying that he works really hard, but like I
Yeah.
hear what
yeah,
you're saying,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Aileen, I think you bring up a really good point. I think this is at all levels because I see it even at my son's age, which is it's great to be super talented
Mhm.
like O'Neal Cruz, but sometimes the Heinz Wards of the
Yes.
world
Yep.
outwork them. They don't have that to rely on. They do not. They have to do everything right and then some to get where they want to go. And so, yes, do some guys, their just talent is so good that they are going to get their opportunity after opportunity and they're going to have some success. Yes. But I do think that sometimes it can be a curse rather than a blessing
Mhm.
for some guys.
Yeah. He's been a frustrating player. I'm not surprised that he continues to dominate so much of our conversations. When I think about the team moving forward, it's impossible to think about how anything goes in any direction without factoring him in. You
That,
have to discuss him.
Yeah. And I
and
think,
that's why they can't just toss him in the dumpster, right?
Yeah.
They need him. Like, you would put up with the things we're talking about if he was sitting
Yeah.
at 34 home runs and 46 steals and he was hitting 258 and his OPS was in the 850s, you'd be like, yeah, am I happy about all that other stuff? Not really, but
Greg,
right.
Greg brings up a good point here that I think is a good way to kind of close this show out. He questions if we overestimated him. I think, Greg, that's obvious. But most of that overestimation, I think it kind of gets confused with scouting. When you're talking about scouting, there's a reason that they grade all the skill sets out separately. They grade out like you have an 80 grade arm. That means you should be able to. There's no position you couldn't play because of your arm. Is basically what that means. Okay. If they say you have 80 grade speed, that doesn't mean you can steal 80 bases. That just means that you can get from point A to point B faster than anybody else. You're in that echelon. All those grades are important, I think, as far as like talking about the ceiling. If everything is achieved, if all the check marks, if the kid is a hard worker, if he's got a head for the game, if he's got a good eye, if all this stuff comes together, these are the tools he's got to work with. Basically, I can give Tiger Woods a set of golf clubs that I get from flea market, and he's going to beat my ass on the golf course. Or I can give him his golf clubs and he's going to really beat my ass on the golf course. You get what I mean? He's got the tools one way or another. It's just a matter of how they're applied. And I think it's hard to say that you overestimated something like that because those skills are still there. He can still throw the ball as hard. He can still impact the baseball. He could all those things that we scouted and saw, not we scouted, but others scouted and saw, that's all still there. It's up to him to realize that talent. And when we talk about Connor Griffin and how exciting he is, I'm reading off stats and I'm kind of joking and laughing about them, but I'm still seeing skills. I'm still seeing elite speed. I'm still seeing the elite range. I'm still seeing elite contact, elite power. I'm seeing that, and I'm hoping that it translates. So do I overestimate? Maybe if I was guessing stats, but I'm not.
No, the only thing I would say to that is, with what Greg said, is there was a rawness to his game that I think everybody maybe kind of like pushed aside, right? Like these things are there, but we all knew in our heart of hearts there was a rawness to his game. So we scariest thing I'll ever utter. We were hoping the Pirates would develop him to get that rawness out of his game. So maybe that's the fault. We thought that they could do that, or we had hoped that they could. And maybe that's just part of his DNA and it will never go away. Maybe.
Or maybe he's a guy that like he gets embarrassed defensively and then it's really hard for him to engage in any way, shape, or form. It could literally be that simple. And that's something that I'm not sure we would hear about. In fact, Aileen, I wouldn't even be surprised if we found out that he had some kind of nagging injury that they've been not wanting to talk about.
Oh, entirely possible.
But if that's the case, I think they do players more harm by keeping that stuff in-house than just putting it out there, right? Like, because Reynolds had a bum shoulder, and I know for a fact that they downplayed how bad that bum shoulder was. And I kind of wish that they had come out with how bad it really was, because first of all, they'd have been better off shutting him down earlier in the season. Second, I think a lot of fans maybe could have used that information when they were watching him struggle so mightily there. Not that he's doing great right now, but the dude couldn't even lift his shoulder above his like shoulder height. You know, and we're wondering why he can't hit. And I'm wondering why they asked him to. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah, I think what it comes down to is too, though, in the court of public opinion, if they put something out, hey, O'Neal Cruz has been dealing with such and such, the people that still think there's something there will say, oh, okay, that makes sense. And the people that O'Neal Cruz is never going to work out, that's a cover, right? That's not, that's making excuses for him. So that's the nature of all corners of the world we live in right now with everything. So
well, let's end on an upswing. Aileen, are you back next year if Ben Cherington stays? What do you think?
I already sent in the check, Gary.
You already sent in the check. So yes, you will be back.
Yes. My son and I talked about it. You know we have Skeens next year. There may be a work stoppage in 27.
Right.
The Pirates are still my connection to my husband. I'm not ready to cut that.
Selfishly, I hope you never are. Because I love talking to you. I said that. I love
Aileen,
talking to you.
Do you want to look? We're running over.
Yes.
I don't care. I want you to brag on your husband just for a few minutes, if you would. And tell people the kind of person he was, the kind of Pirates fan he was, and what that has meant to you, and why when people say like, well, you just don't go and you don't care and you don't do this. So I want to give you the floor to do that.
Okay. My husband was the kind of guy who sat in sections alone at Three Rivers Stadium He has a stepbrother, and his stepbrother is the one who introduced him to the Pirates, his stepbrother, Howard Schulberg. Howard Schulberg is the nicest human. He's married to a judge, and she's a big Pirate fan too, and they're season ticket holders. But anyway, Chad's stepbrother started taking him to games, and he caught the bug. It was his stepbrother who introduced him, and they'd go to games together. And they'd go to Chad's father and go, can we have some more money for tickets? And he'd be finally like, my father-in-law was paying for like half a season, then an entire season. So my husband had been a season ticket holder since maybe 1985, and that was not good time then. That was, things were pretty lean then. That was, right around the time Leland came in the late 80s, when I moved to Pittsburgh, and we met at Duquesne Law School. And I started going to games, and we have one son who was born in 98, and we'd be sitting there at Three Rivers with a 6-month-old on our laps watching Mark McGuire hit home runs.
I've been there for that too.
Yeah, and he just loved the Pirates. I bought him as an anniversary gift a trip to fantasy camp one year, and his stepbrother got the same gift. His wife and I arranged for that. That was back in 2001, I believe. And he loved it so much, he went back like 18 more times. He met so many great
Well, yeah, he's a guy. He's a guy, so he'll go back.
I know, but he made friends with all these guys, and they were so good to him. And, we've taken our son, learn geography by going to Cincinnati and Baltimore. And when my son was looking at colleges and wanted to look at DC schools, it was like, all right, the Pirates are playing the Nats in July. We'll go look at schools in DC during that time. I mean,
I love it.
he loved the Pirates. The guys from fantasy camp were so good. He loved talking about or going out to dinner with Spanky, and the stories they would tell at night. Jack Wilson, he was fortunate enough to have Jack Wilson and the Fort as his coaches one year. And yeah, I mean, on my Twitter page, it says widow to the loyalist Pirate fan in the history of the franchise. And I really feel that way about him. He just, guys, he'd go to games. If it was freezing, he'd go to games. If it was raining, I used to joke about that when we retired, we would be ushers at Bradenton. His dream.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, we'll go spend some time in Florida. But I was telling you guys before we started, he just, people, neighbors, and other lawyers would say, how can you continue to support them? And if you're a baseball fan, the answer to that question. It's in here.
Right.
It's the reason, my parents followed the Dodgers, and Chad was just wedded to the Pirates. And
And you
Um,
said the team's been pretty good to you about this too afterwards, right? I mean,
yes. Unfortunately, when Chad passed away, he was at the Willie Stargell golf outing with other fantasy campers. And that's something that the Pirates actually pay for the foursome to go every year to support Willie's foundation. And Mrs. Stargell and her sister flew up for the funeral. Al Oliver called me a couple days after he had passed away to express his condolences because Al had been one of his coaches one year. And the usher, our usher from Section 121, that man lives in Allison Park and showed up at the funeral home in November.
wow.
And on opening day, there were black and yellow ribbons tied around Chad's seat in Section 121. You know? So, you know, the Pirates are part of my life in Pittsburgh. Let me give you a warning. If you ever do go to fantasy camp, make sure you work out beforehand. And because the first time he went, his birthday was late October and camp was in January. So he had a few weeks to try to get in shape, and he was not in great shape then. So he goes to fantasy camp with his stepbrother, and the third day in, he calls me and says, I think I sprained my ankle. And I was like, oh, but I'm fine. So the weekends he flies home, and it's on a Sunday, and it happened to be the AFC Championship game with the Patriots and Steelers. And his law partner picked him up at the airport because they were going to the game. Well, he comes home that night and he's dragging his right leg behind him. And I'm like, what happened? He goes, oh, I think I tore my Achilles tendon.
Oh my.
And
The Fort tell him to walk it off.
He did tear his Achilles. But he was having such a good time, he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave fantasy camp.
I love that. That's That's like a tough guy story. So I love it.
I love it. And Aileen, sorry, you're an incredible woman, and I really have loved and treasured your Twitter friendship for years, and meeting you at the ballpark a couple times. And this was really great to have you on, for real. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, I appreciate you guys. And, you know, I love the Pirates. They live in my heart. So they may put me in the ground, but they live in my heart.
Well, that's every Pirate fan story. So that's not unique. So yes, we're all in that same boat. But I'm so glad you came on. I'm so glad you got to brag on your husband a little bit. Yeah, that was really cool. And thank you for sharing that stuff.
Well, one last thing. Memorial donations, when we had his obituary, we had the funeral, memorial donations were designated for the Willie Stargell Foundation and the Roberto Clemente Museum.
There you go.
Two things that meant a lot to us. So
I love it.
Yes. So
thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
We're going to toss it off to Ben, but one last note before we do. We lost somebody pretty awesome and in Pittsburgh that I was really close to very recently, Dale Lawley. And rest easy, brother. I mean, one of the most kind and patient and understanding sports writers I've ever spoken to. Just an unbelievable person. And could tell a story. Just there was nothing he couldn't tell an incredible story about. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
he'll be missed.
He will be, and like a lot of things, you hear good and bad about people in professions, and I've yet to hear a bad thing about
He's
him.
great.
So, thoughts with his family.
All right. So hey, listen, I'm gonna watch this one back with a box of tissues because I was holding them back.
Whew.
Anyways, good stuff, and I will see you at the ball game next year, Aileen.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. Let's toss it off to Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go, Bucks!
Yeah, buddy.